Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Ancient Wisdom Modern Journey. I have with me a very special guest. I really don't know how to describe a man of such phenomenal skill. He's a guy who shaped economic policy in context of what India should look at in with the world. He's a guy who is now spearheading the roots of Indian education system and civilization as the Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University. And he also ensures that the economy of our country is running well and strong by being on the board of the Reserve Bank of India. Please allow me to welcome with me our lovely guest, Shri Sachin Chaturvedi ji.
Thank you.
Sachin ji, welcome to this podcast. And we are so delighted to have you with us on this show. Sachin ji, I think the world knows your many achievements. But I want to start by knowing, who are you as a person? Please tell us a little bit about your family, your society, where you came from, your ideals.
Siddharth, a couple of things are important before we get into these details. I think the society and family linkages are important to a great extent in terms of how your mind is shaped, how you think society can really interplay with this. So, largely you find multiple opportunities of shaping them.
Okay.
And you find a huge number of traction in terms of how family, society, and then the larger conundrum of things that actually help you evolve as an entity. So school plays an important role. Characters associated with your school, the settings, etc., they play an important role. But to us, even multiple other factors also helped. So, like for instance, ours was a joint family, and we had everybody together. So, my 6 uncles and father had 6 sisters, so 12 of them. Wow. And then they are all kids. So, all of our family used to stay together. And then there was perfect division of labor. One uncle was responsible for our education, one responsible for our clothing, our outing, etc. So that division really shaped you in terms of how you connect in a society.
Okay.
And then my grandfather was a hugely public figure.
Okay.
He was part of the Language Commission of India, which actually translated Indian Constitution to Hindi.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of connect. And then he was also trying to bring in as to how a community should behave.
Okay.
Today we may be critical, but how, for instance, Brahmins are supposed to behave in a society. How Chaturvedis should live.
Okay.
What kind of Chaturvedi community should come up.
Okay.
So like for instance, we were talking during lunch about onion garlic. Now this never came to our house. This was alien thing for us.
Yeah.
But how you bring in that cultural system. So what I was saying was in terms of how issues come up. And our house in Indore is in middle of the city.
Okay.
Where on all 4 sides are Jain communities.
Achha.
All Jain houses are there.
Okay.
All Jain temples are there.
Okay.
So not only onion garlic, which was not allowed in our house, even when Jains would join Indore wide movement to block selling of meat, we would also be the one supporting it.
Right.
So society, city, culture, schools, they all shape you. And then you evolve as a person. So I think that setting of civilizational connect, the idea of we being part of it is extremely important. And that's what really brings in division of labor in a society, in a family, in a setting, in a company, or even in a university like ours.
Very well said. I think the beauty has been that of all the guests that we've continued to meet, people have always emphasized the role that the society, community has played at large, right? And not just focusing on, I did this because I did this. It's I did this because a lot of people, around me shaped me in terms of who I am. Tell us, how has the shift been for you from the role that you played at RIS, where you have done some outstanding work, right? Your philosophy on South-South collaboration, people not looking at it as a donor-recipient, your thoughts shaping the G20 hosting in India in terms of our entire economic and finance track, to now working in a place like Nalanda, where you are trying to revive not decades, not centuries, but thousands of years and millennia old institutions, and reflect or get back and show people how we are actually the cradle of modern learning and modern civilization. How has this journey been? Because these are two very distinct career paths, and someone of your stature excelling at both is very, very intriguing. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
No, thank you. Very, very interesting question, Siddharth. I think if you look at, and I would go back to the first question in terms of how a joint family system really encourages you to absorb
Right.
whatever is coming across
Right.
you. So in a family system like that, you try to learn from everybody.
Okay.
So when we joined in RIS, there were sort of stalwarts of people who actually excelled in terms of how global south should cooperate.
Okay.
So somebody like Professor Shukmoy Chakravarti, Professor V.R. Panchmukhi, Professor Muchkund Dubey, these people actually shaped India's foreign policy in the realm of economics.
Okay.
So largely till early part of this century, when India started getting into economic issues, global economic issues, we were largely a politically led diplomatic initiatives.
Okay.
So non-aligned movement, G77, those kind of political things were there. So bringing in economics into it was a tough game,
Right.
and we were trying to do that till the World Trade Organization, WTO. And Pranab Mukherjee was one who was into the economic part of the foreign policy. So with him, we got a window, and Arjun Singh Gupta, who became our chairman of RIS, we worked very closely in terms of shaping that and navigating it. And that required theorization, etc. The incoming governments from 1991 onwards, they all were with different degree of commitment to global south, to economic issues. Even Manmohan Singh, who actually was my vice chairman before he became finance minister,
Okay.
he actually shaped and he was having full faith in South-South cooperation.
Okay.
When he became finance minister, things changed. He took different position and then he went on different track. But after he relinquished the finance minister's position and KC Pant came in, he still got engaged and shaped. So what I'm trying to say is that South-South cooperation and working with Global South was not just a matter of conviction and something that the job assigned, but we very passionately felt about it.
Okay.
In terms of injustice, in terms of participation of all the countries together. So we shaped that discussion at the global level.
Okay.
We participated in multiple negotiating teams, including the one that adopted Sustainable Development Goals in 2011-12.
Okay.
So we shaped, we were part of it. When India organized G20, Prime Minister asked all of us one question as to how do we take it to others,
Right.
to everybody, because we were discussing about think tank role, and RIS is a think tank. So we were trying to play an important role in terms of how a think tank can really shape G20.
Right.
He said, no, G20 is think tank specific city is fine. Can we reach out to students? Can we reach out to universities? So then in RIS, we launched a major program called University Connect.
Okay.
And PM said, we said, then how many universities? So he said, India is celebrating 75 years, 75 universities. So it was...
बड़ी आसानी से बोल दिया 75 यूनिवर्सिटीज ठीक है
लेकिन हमने भी उस पे थमे नहीं.
Okay.
We did with 101 universities.
क्या बात है
तो
क्या बात है
So he felt very happy. He said, okay, you organize a finale and I would come.
Okay.
So then in the finale, he came.
Okay.
September 27th, we had him. And that was a very good occasion in terms of having 101 vice chancellors.
Right.
And almost 10,000 students in the room. And then UGC and Doordarshan Baras. So lakhs of students watched it all across the country. Some questions were also taken in, etc. So it was a bit of my exposure to university system. But I was never into it. But of course, in between, I had taken some time off from RIS, and that I kept on doing in my life. I joined RIS in 1991 and finished in 2025. But every time I took a break, I was in Amsterdam University, I was with Bonn University in German Development Institute, I was in New Haven at Yale University. So I kept on teaching and coming back to research, academics. So Nalanda is not such a big jump. The issues are different because I always dealt with economic issues. And my area of research was innovation, technology, and economics, how they connect with each other. Nalanda is civilizational.
Yeah.
It is Buddhist, it is religious, it is philosophy, it is art and literature, which were never my subject areas. So I'm trying to get into it. So your question is absolutely right, that whether it is very difficult. It is challenging. It is requiring a very different kind of readings, because you never have studied so much. And in economics, things have changed.
Okay.
But what I'm realizing, Siddharth, and then probably in your business also, you must be realizing it. You are an ardent follower of Jain philosophy.
Right.
You are an ardent religious man. So you would realize that in India, a religion is not about rituals.
Yeah.
It is about the way you conduct yourself, the
On a
way you
day-to-day
practice
life.
yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing that in economics, that is equally important. And in my research career, I saw how technology and economics now rest on the fulcrum of intellectual property rights,
Yes.
IPR.
Yes.
And in your pharma business, you would be realizing how intellectual property
The
rights
world of
actually,
pharma is
exactly
completely
is only
correlated to IPR.
on IPR.
Completely on IPR.
So then, during my research at Yale University, Obamacare had come.
Okay.
And we had a huge project which was led by Thomas Pogge, who was a philosopher. He's a philosopher there. He did his PhD with Rawls. Rawls is world's most well-established philosopher at Harvard University.
Okay.
And he did his PhD at Harvard. So there they find out that injustice in society comes in when you do not allow medicine access. So Obama introduced Obamacare.
Right.
Our task was, how do we reduce the dead weight of patents?
Okay.
How do we reduce that? So we thought of coming up with a new idea, and we evolved something called as Health Impact Fund.
Okay.
So you would get compensation for intellectual property right based on a measure called DALI, which you can see in terms of how much efficacious is your drug. So if 20 people are consuming your medicine,
Right.
and if it is found efficacious, then you
All
would be
20 must-
compensated.
yeah.
So this is the dead weight of patent that we try to evolve.
Give away.
This gave me, Siddharth, a window to bring economics closer to ethics. How you bring that ethics close?
Sorry, I'm going to interject you over there. I have never heard somebody talk of economics and ethics together. And judging by your tone, it seems this is something which is very close to your heart. So sorry if I'm going to ask you to expand a little bit more, and sorry I interjected, but I really want to double click on
this is important.
economics and ethics, because as you know, part of our journey is to actually speak of our ancient wisdom and connection to roots. And I think some of the biggest wisdom and some of the biggest roots that we have are based on dharma, and dharma is nothing but ethically conducting yourself in day-to-day life.
Exactly.
So can you expand a little bit on economics and ethics? Sorry, I had to interject you, but I would like you to really speak a little bit on that.
Absolutely. No, well taken point. There, Siddharth, the whole idea was that when efficacious sort of diffusion of medicine happens, then you measure it and you give proportionate to the kind of intellectual property that is created in improving the kind of product you're getting.
Okay.
This is ethical part of it. This is the justice part of it. So then we evolved based on this experience. We gave it to governments. Of course, all the multinational corporations are unethical in their approach.
Yeah.
For them, ethics doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the proposal was blocked. Then we have continued our work, and this work is continuing. But then the idea of bringing ethics and economics is something that has given us multiple opportunities.
Okay.
In Nalanda, we are trying to take that task forward. After the 2007 collapse of the transatlantic crisis in finance, the collapse of the Lehman Brothers, the collapse of the multiple banks that happened. Now that for last 6 years, I am on the board of the Reserve Bank.
Right.
We are closely following the multiple financial crises that are happening. And these are largely because the proprietor themselves become greedy. Be that in banks, be in financial companies. How do we bring in ethical conduct of finance? So we had detailed discussions. In 2020, Honorable Finance Minister agreed, Prime Minister proposed, and Shamika Ravi, a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Baluji, the member of the Capacity Building Commission, all of us worked on the idea of what are called as social enterprises.
Okay.
NASDAQ and others would tell you, the Bombay Stock Exchange, they would tell you how much emphasis government has laid in terms of listing of social
Social
enterprises.
enterprises.
So these social enterprises are ethical articulation of financial instruments that are needed in form of private companies.
Okay.
So how private companies serve social purposes is something which is extremely important for societies like ours to
Right.
realize. The third part comes in terms of a divide which we have created. So the question that you raised in terms of ethics and economics is something also responsible in terms of our what Maharaj ji said today in terms of westernization of our minds.
Right.
So it is in last 300 years that we have fragmented humanities and natural sciences.
Right.
We think that pharmacist has no role with economics
Yeah.
and ethics, and we think that ethics is for people who are studying humanities or something else.
True.
But these attributes of our personality, they need to come together
Right.
to reinforce our idea of society and its progress. I give you one example from Nalanda, which would be of interest. Very often, when we start debating with our counterparts from Western countries,
Right.
they say that we have discovered this, our country has distributed that, Einstein did, Newton found that, and what has India given? And very meekly we would say zero. Zero came from us.
Right.
We should be proud of that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our academic institutions, our curriculum in schools, they do not tell you.
Yeah.
Zero did not drop from apple
air,
like
yeah,
Newton's
yeah.
apple. So this was something which Indian philosophy talked about.
Right.
Among the many followers of Lord Buddha,
Right.
Nagarjuna was one of the greatest philosophers of his times. He was master of Nalanda University, vice chancellor of Nalanda University.
The same position that you.
I don't occupy that because the century was
I
different.
know, but
So there, Siddharth, he evolved this idea of emptiness. How in philosophical advancement you reach on an equanimous position
right.
when you feel emptiness.
Right.
Many years after Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta, they worked on the idea and evolved this and described this, mathematized it.
Mathematics
said
it zero.
So somehow the coherent, cogent understanding of it and its articulation is missing.
Right.
And as a result, we are not able to concretize that, yes, zero came from us. And
Right.
it was outcome of philosophy and mathematics and its
Yeah.
convergence.
Right.
So that articulation has to come in. It has to come forcefully. Like this, there are multiple examples on how we see our archaeology, how we see Ayurvedic biology,
Right.
how we see the dimensions of advancements, particularly in the way we manage water. The idea of zero to my campus, which is
Yeah.
net zero. How
I was
this
actually gonna
journey
come
has
to that.
happened. We would talk about
when
that.
you spoke of zero, the first thing that came to my mind is the booklet that I just read, which you call a Shunya.
Yes.
Right. So a very apt title, because I think perhaps you're the only campus in the world which is net zero on so many dimensions.
Exactly.
That it seems like in a lot of ways, you are not just reviving the old glory, but you're now setting like the highest benchmarks for universities across the world. So speak a little bit about the net zero initiative that you have at Nalanda.
Yes, this is something which is extremely exciting for us. Honorable Prime Minister declared Nalanda University as a net zero campus. We did not bring in any single brick from outside.
Oh, wow.
Nothing was got from outside.
Okay. And
We
where
did
did you-
everything on our campus. The challenge for us when our teams landed up there was stone and stone, nothing else.
Okay.
Part of it was barren, part of it had very little biodiversity.
Right.
So what our teams did was to dig deep, take out soil,
Okay.
produce bricks there, you can imagine the amount of water that we have saved, the amount of carbon dioxide emissions that we have saved, and the amount of energy that we have saved.
Okay.
We produced our own brick. We followed precisely the way the earlier Nalanda in the
Yeah.
5th century
Was
was
created.
designed
Yeah.
and created. And we have ended up with a huge set of parameters on which we have qualified to be net zero. Of late, we have stopped complete stoppage to fossil fuel vehicles. So I myself cycle in the 500-acre
Wow.
campus, and
Wow.
everybody in the university is doing
Right.
that. They are walking, they are cycling, and some electric vehicles have come for some
Right.
people, and they are helping. So this way, you can really extrapolate that lifestyle to nearby villages, nearby Rajgir society, and etc. So I think such experiments are in a way motivating us, inspiring us to move in the direction of how natural and social sciences can work together.
Yeah.
How our education system and the NEP, the New Education Policy 2020, Dharmendra Pradhan ji did it with so much commitment, I think is important for us to see that these new efforts in India are to be encouraged, facilitated, and brought together. In whatever way we can see these two streams of knowledge coming together would be extremely important, productive, and useful for us to go forward. And this has not only in practical terms the net zero that we talked about, but also in terms of how global financial architecture is to be balanced.
Okay.
The idea of bringing ethics back in finance, the question with which we started this discussion, I think is important for us to formalize, to finalize. And this is where Bhutan's gross happiness index comes in. And what we heard from Maharaji in terms of going beyond GDP as a major. And this is something that we have talked. I have spoken to you about the idea of social enterprises. But if you add to this idea of sustainable consumption and sustainable production, how we can enhance, deepen the circular economy, how do we reduce carbon footprints of that? The third part comes in terms of how do you measure it?
Yeah.
And when you have to measure, you have to see the well-being of the society.
Yeah.
Whether government policies, government actions, if they are enhancing GDP by depleting resources, by depleting plants, by depleting access to fresh air, by reducing fresh water, you are reducing well-being.
Is it actually progress then?
Yes, is it a progress? And that's where in 1915, when in Kolkata, British government decided to supply piped water in the houses. Municipal Corporation of Kolkata decided in 1915 to give water. Rabindranath Tagore wrote an editorial and opposed it. And he criticized.
Why?
And his idea was that if you give water to people in home, they would not realize the importance of pokhars. So in Kolkata, there were multiple water bodies all across called pokhars. So people used to go and fetch water from there, but clean it up and then come back. So they would keep water bodies clean. And would not build houses on water bodies, which we have done on Mithi River and many other places.
And in Bangalore and everywhere, right?
And Bangalore. So the urban flooding that you are seeing in Bangalore, Chennai is largely because those water bodies have been eaten away by urban development. So that's where the idea of global public goods
comes in.
That comes in. And this is where society has to work hand in hand with economic planners, economic society builders, and also the way our development philosophy comes in. So when all these parameters are combined, the social enterprises, SCP, sustainable consumption and production, the measurements going beyond GDP, the idea of social enterprises, they all combine forces together and form of what we call as well-being. There are 38 indicators of well-being.
38 indicators, okay.
And we have come out, my latest book which has come out from Springer as an open source book.
Okay.
And this I have edited with a professor from TIS, Sita Prabhu,
Okay.
and my colleague at RIS, Sabyasachi Saha.
Okay.
Three of us, and several of my colleagues from Yale, from Germany, from France, from Japan, they have contributed chapters in that volume. And this volume, Well-Being Measurement, Professor Pambidua, they all have contributed in terms of how do we evolve the idea of well-being. And that's where now economics is not just ethics, it is converging with welfare. So welfare measurement from economics perspective,
How do you measure?
How do you measure? And that's where when you boil down, it comes to where we started with the first question, the sanskara. So the family gives you the sanskara, the family as a unit. So what moment we are talking in terms of Kutum Prabodhan, the promotion of the family value system, that is where the crux comes in. And if each unit is under some kind of discipline, some kind of happiness, the collective responsibility, you can turn that at the global level.
Very, very, very interesting thought. And more importantly, I think you've put a lot of this into motion, because I think truly the work that you are doing in a lot of ways at Nalanda is a reflective, I would say reflection rather, of the work that you've done at RIS. And, you know, you speak of looking at things as a family, you speak of social development, etc. Right? My interest is drawn to a couple of very interesting facts, which I think our viewers should know. You're widely credited to be one of the guys whose thought process ensured that the African Union became a part of the G20 in that summit, right? You've also ensured that a lot of thought and work is given on equitable distribution of resource and equal access to some of these fundamental common resources of the world, which are also a part of the 12-point roadmap on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam given by His Holiness Yugbhushan Suri Maharaj Sahib. Can you help us draw what thought inspired you, or what conviction made you believe that, for example, to include someone like an African Union, or the work that you're doing in terms of looking at parity between the donor and the donee, or some of these frameworks of equitable resource, right? You spoke of what happens in Nalanda. How has equitable resource, equity, inclusion become such an important part of your life's work?
So this is again, I mean, as we were discussing, it's part of a larger upbringing that you have, the thought process. But I think the idea of Global South was very much embedding equitable distribution of resources. And that part we have been discussing since G20 came up. As to a large part of humanity is out of the agenda. And the idea of bringing African Union not on the table, but at the table.
At the table.
At the table. Because we were keeping them on the table all the time. And as a result, we could bring in a larger...
How difficult was it to convince, to get them from on the table to at the table?
So on the table to at the table became an interesting journey. And this was right from, I would say, the first round of discussion which we had after it was decided that G20 should not be a finance forum.
Okay.
G20 should be a development forum.
There is a role for ethics to be played. There is a role for inclusion to be played. There is a role for ensuring there is equity across the world. And I think one of the biggest demonstrations of that is the fact that you are telling us you got the African Union not as a discussion point, but actually with you at the table, right? What was the thought process behind doing something so monumental? Because you are widely credited to be the brains behind getting them in G20 along with everybody.
So, Siddharth, this discussion was on for a couple of years before India got the presidency. The history goes back to 2009, when Clinton actually realized in terms of how this transition has to happen. And during my immediate crisis of 2007-8, when Obama was actually president, they had this idea in terms of bringing in not just head of the state level G20, so upscaling from finance ministers and central bank governors to head of the state, but then also adding the Sherpa track, which happened in the South Korean presidency of G20.
Okay.
There, they said that uh, if you have to overcome a financial crisis in any country, if you remember in 1997 in Indonesia, the financial crisis of property prices happened.
Okay.
So all property prices collapsed.
Okay.
And as a result, huge meltdown in the financial sector in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore.
Right.
Everybody got affected. And with them, we also got affected.
Right.
Everybody was affected.
Right.
This was called the Asian crisis.
Okay.
The crisis, when it happens in America, it is never American crisis.
Oh, the
world crisis. So they
unko-
call it global financial crisis.
Yes,
But
yes.
I always call it Atlantic crisis. It was Atlantic crisis.
Barabar.
So now, when that happened, they said that no, this requires solution, etc. So one suggestion that was made in 2010 in Canada summit of G20 was that we have to look at the fundamentals.
Okay.
Fundamentals come in from development. Now, development requires a different track converging with finance. If we are not able to solve developmental challenges, we would always have problem in finance.
Right.
So we first correct development
Right.
track. So that development track required a huge effort by our people to solve the crisis. So South Korean presidency was in a way most effective addition of development track when the Sherpa was first appointed.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was only the finance track.
Finance track.
So then G20 started on two legs.
Finance and
Finance
development.
and development track. So finance minister leads the finance track and Sherpa on behalf of the head of the state leads the Sherpa track.
Right.
All the development issues come in. So Amitabh Kant, when he led in
The
India,
G20 Sherpa.
he led on behalf of Prime Minister all the development issues in G20. This practice evolved. During Indonesian presidency, there was huge discussion in terms of bringing in Africa, because all this while people were talking about Africa,
But never really doing much
but
about it.
hardly doing anything. And Indonesia, we all demanded. We had in Bali a huge discussion, Jeffrey Sachs and others, and with Jeff we had huge discussion as to how to push. And he could not make it to the final meeting. I was there. He was online, and then we were trying to force in there. Multiple actors came in, and we were trying to push, but we failed. It just came in the discussion, but never
Did
got
not
accepted.
happen.
In India, we started working on this right from the early days.
Okay.
In between, from RIS, I had not taken a break exactly, but then I had become deputy chairman of Planning Commission of Madhya Pradesh.
Okay.
So in Bhopal, we did a major G20 meet.
All right.
This is called as T20, Think 20.
Think 20. All right.
T20. So we invited all the G20 countries and several global South countries. So it was a grand meeting. Shivraj Chauhan Singh ji addressed, and we had detailed discussions with several African delegates. And if you see Bhopal Declaration, we very forcefully asked in March 2023, very forcefully asked government to deliver on Africa, bring in Africa. We had multiple representatives from African countries. We gave the recommendation. And then 4 other platforms we also intruded, created debate, and to Prime Minister suggestions gave. And then I must mention that Prime Minister was extremely excited in terms of this possibility and supporting. And this, in a way, I would say, got huge traction within PMO to bring AU on board. India's commitment to Africa when he became Prime Minister right in 2015, the IAFS, India-Africa Forum Summit happened. Again, it would be happening in 2026 We would have IIFS next year. So this connection with Africa, and as probably you may be aware, Prime Minister himself has a huge soft corner for Africa. In his first term, of 14 to 19, he instructed all the cabinet ministers, president, vice president, and prime minister himself. There are 54 countries, and they all were covered. Several countries for the first time. But Prime Minister himself covered 12 countries in that phase. All countries were covered by our cabinet. And this is something that demonstrates commitment at the top political level. So what happened in 2023 is an outcome of Prime Minister's own personal traction
जो 2014 से चल रहा था.
जो 2014 से चल रहा था. तो ये जो कमिटमेंट था, ये जो सोच थी, ये जो एक्शन था, वो एक लगातार चलने वाली प्रक्रिया के रूप में 2023 में निकल के आया. And 2023 then marked this transition for Africa, that from the table they came to the chair.
Right.
And they occupied it. So they were really moved when it
Right.
actually happened. But then, are they prepared? That's the question. Because you may come in dinner,
Right.
but whether you have appetite to eat,
Right.
whether you know what to eat,
Right.
and in what way to eat.
Right.
So, internal preparedness of African Union is extremely important. In Comoros, when we became when they became the member, and we invited them, Comoros was the chair of AU.
Okay.
We approached, and I met in South Africa President of Comoros, and we requested that a workshop be organized. Then I went to Comoros, and we did a workshop for them on capacity building for AU in the areas related to development finance, and issues related to that. So in Cape Town in South Africa, we met their functionaries, and we did that
Capacity building
workshop. So this, I think, is extremely important. The purpose for which we feel committed, the purpose for which wherewithals are required to deliver,
Right.
are extremely important. And this component gives you the bandwidth within which you can deliver the idea of enabling any country to deliver and achieve what is required to be achieved. Another example, Siddharth, if I give you, within that G20 presidency, this is also about geopolitics.
Right.
So after Belt and Road Initiative of China, multiple communication routes were being occupied and being viewed more as part of the Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
The other alternative that was announced after the G20 summit, if you recall, was IMEC.
Yes.
India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor.
Yes.
So the idea was that the Europe, which is going through now under economic contraction,
Massive
requires it requires resources for massively rebuild their infrastructure, because it was of the colonial times.
Right.
Now that infrastructure is no more compatible with the modern requirements. So as a result, they themselves needing the uplift, the connectivity that is needed between some of the countries like Greece, Italy, with West Asia, right from Israel to Saudi Arabia, to UAE to India, and India to further up in this idea was equally important for us, particularly from energy point of view.
Yeah.
So the concept that PM gave of one world, one sun, one grid. So this whole concept.
Right.
So the idea of solar energy moving from one region to other. So Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries having their own energy grid. India having its own energy grid, where
Naturally.
Nepal is now producing after so many years. We have been advising them, they never heard. But now, after seeing Bhutan's successful experience, they've started getting into it. Now they're exporting it to Bangladesh through India.
Right.
So this energy grid is going from us. Bhutan is part of it. Sri Lanka through undersea cable would become part of it. So India-wide South Asia grid is coming up. Similarly, GCC countries,
Are coming up
the
with
Gulf
a
Cooperation Council, they have their own sort of grid, and then that to be connected to the European grid. So these are efforts where countries which are in need of equity, countries that want to shape equitable distribution,
in the
and
future,
countries that want equity participation, they all have scope.
and they're all coming on the table
They
at
are
the
all
same
coming
time.
on the table and coming together with all dimensions. But that's where Siddharth's story doesn't end. Because at the academic level, we have to work much more deeper into it.
Okay.
What we evolved in RIS was a conceptual framework of AEI, access, equity, and inclusion. So how you
Not
measure
DEI.
AEI?
AEI. Okay.
Yes, access, equity, and inclusion. So how you measure access, how you measure equity, and how you measure inclusion.
Okay. And
So
what
then we
is the
worked
thought?
on it. We've identified multiple parameters, and we tried to apply that to STI policy of science, technology, innovation policies of different states, and we came up with principal component analysis to show how AEI can be done.
You spoke of equity, you spoke of principle, you spoke of participation. Uh, Instantly, it rings a bell in my mind that all of this is ultimately connected to a very important initiative that you're also involved with, both in the personal capacity as one of the advisory board members, but also in the capacity of Nalanda University now signing an MOU with Jyot and Gitar Ganga, which is coming up with a phenomenal conclave in January on the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And one of the key tenets of this conclave is to demonstrate how the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is our ancient successful wisdom and philosophy, how through 12 practical guarantees envisioned by His Holiness Yugbhushan Suri Maharaj Sahib actually has a solution of what is happening in the world. In a lot of ways, I think the work that you've done उसी काम को यहाँ पे एक दूसरे अंदाज से समावेश किया जा सकता है. What inspired you to join this movement, and what inspired you with the work that's happening, and that you decided to sign an MOU with Jyot and Gitar Ganga, and what collaboration do you think is possible between such phenomenal institutions?
Very good question again, Siddharth. I think I must thank Vijay Chathaiwalaji, who has connected me, who has exposed me to this work, and then Priyanka ji gave me the details that were there. Otherwise, we had very little idea about this institution or about their work.
True.
What we were feeling in Nalanda was that the politics of language should not come too heavily on the university.
Right.
So, as you can imagine, the coexistence of Buddhism and Jainism in region in Rajgir.
What
and
was
Kavapure.
Pataliputra at that time?
Exactly. So they had a different kind of linguistic fervor.
True.
So Prakrit became language of one and Pali became language of other.
Yeah.
So the politics of language through Buddhist schools and the way Buddhists actually turned the philosophy into pedagogy and made it part of institutional curriculum. You don't find that effort from Jains. And as I told you, in my childhood, I saw Jain philosophy as everyday practice.
As a way of life.
Exactly,
Yes.
as a way of life. So I was always wondering why Jains are not working on this, and I inquired, and that's how in my conversations with people and with Vijayji, I came to know of this initiative.
Right.
I had no idea of this institutional framework.
Right.
Because newspapers don't publish.
Yeah.
Media houses don't highlight.
True.
And as a result, you do not know what is happening.
True.
And we also don't have any genealogy teachings in our
Teachings or
universities.
colleges or yeah.
So I was very determined to launch it. In fact, with one of my faculty colleagues at Nalanda, with Pranshu Samdarshi, I decided to visit all the Jain educational institutions.
Okay.
And we have that plan now ready. We are planning to go to them, and I have also entrusted this task to my colleague Dr. Mir Islam to bring this component together. So in our MOU, he was involved
Right.
with the Priyanka ji to finalize the broad contents.
True.
Our idea is that under the guidance of Pandit Maharaj ji, I think the effort has been to digitalize the manuscripts.
True.
And they have tried to bring in broad dimensions of these engagements across the streams of knowledge like Samaj Shastra, Niti Shastra, Artha Shastra, etc.
True.
But they are also trying to bring in broad messages for future, which
Yeah.
we are also trying to do.
Absolutely.
So through this MOU, our idea is to bring together a new Gen chair at the university.
Right.
I'm trying to raise resources for that.
True.
My idea is that some endowment should be created in the university to promote the Prakrit and Pali cross linkages, but also at the same time promote studies of Jain philosophy. And in the process, we also bring out the coherent, cogent interlinkages with the Sanatan Sanskriti,
Right.
the wider Indian framework,
Right.
and how we digitalize these documents,
Right.
overcome the script-related constraints through AI.
Right.
And the AI would help us understand it better. The AI would help us to see these interlinkages with Buddhist philosophy,
Right.
with of Jain philosophy, but also of Sanatan Dharma,
Right.
and also Sikh philosophy. These are shared principles of our society.
Right.
The Bhakti movement highlighted several beautiful aspects of this, and we need to bring in. This is also evident through folklore, folk culture, and also the interlinkages.
Right.
And that part, I think we have to understand. The origin of scripts has to be understood, and then we can take that. So I am keenly looking forward to my visit to both these institutions, and keenly looking forward to having this MOU not just signed and
shelved, yes,
but signed
put
and
into practice.
pushed to ground. And both these faculty colleagues of mine are extremely committed, and I'm sure they would run on ground
Yeah.
on day one.
So you spoke about a couple of things, about our civilization, of shared history, of folklore. And you were just chatting with me some time back that we are not a nation state drawn by borders. We are a civilizational nation, right? We have a civilization that spans thousands of years and millennia. And Nalanda is a living embodiment of this. What are the key initiatives that you are taking to ensure that Nalanda once again becomes the crowning jewel of our civilizational educational system? और जो भारतीय educational system की हम बात करते हैं, what are you doing to make that right? I think our listeners and viewers would be very keen to see, because हम सबने नालंदा के बारे में पढ़ा है, सबने नालंदा के बारे में सुना है, बट सब बोलते अच्छा नालंदा एक चीज़ हुआ करती थी, राइट? एंड यू आर गिविंग अस अ स्टोरी अबाउट how the teachings of Nalanda went to Israel, and from Israel, effectively, your Oxford and Cambridge are a reflection of what has happened in Nalanda. Can you spend a few minutes telling our viewers and listeners about this?
No, definitely, Siddharth. If you see, there are 4 components that are extremely essential for you to become an international university.
Okay.
First and foremost, your professor, your faculty should be internationally visible.
Yeah.
They should be of the quality that people feel that, yes, we should go there. That professor is there. Like, for instance, when I had to go to Yale, I thought, oh, Thomas is there. Yes, I
Right.
should contact, I should go, I should study under him. So, so masters are important in teaching, and masters have to play that very
Role.
important role to attract. Nagarjuna had a fame that attracted people and invited them to get it. So first and foremost is this task of exposing faculty to the global stage. I am wholeheartedly promoting foreign travels of all my
Faculty members.
colleagues and faculty members. I realize that at some point it becomes a point of control. that I would allow only the select faculty to travel and not to others. I have
So it's
given
becoming a big part
it's a big
of,
part of
so
the
global
process.
exposure and world class faculty. Okay,
And
point
their
one.
point
Okay,
number one, point number two, their publications,
okay,
and with publications and exposure, their ability to attract students, which is the third important component
fair.
of this. And fourth, as I said, this is largely under Ministry of External Affairs. So Nalanda becomes an important instrument for cultural diplomacy,
Yes,
intellectual diplomacy, and
yes,
diplomacy of Akhanda Bharat that we talk about,
right,
the larger boundaries that we talk about. And the boundaries are of larger intellectual boundaries going to Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and right up to Europe, all these places.
right.
And some of these have become boundaries of Buddhist philosophy, where Buddhist concentrations are there. Yesterday, in northeast region of Russia, we signed one agreement with one university.
Wow.
So we are trying to deepen this cooperation.
Okay.
My colleagues are working very closely with a couple of universities in Mexico. I am myself going to Lisbon to connect with the universities. We are trying to work out some of these partnerships. Just a couple of days back, we signed agreement with the Dongkwon University in South Korea.
Okay.
Agreement was there, activities were not there, so we
Okay.
did 2 activities with them. So this way, we are trying to connect.
You've got quite something at hand, because I can see you're working with all the four areas, right? Faculty, publication, students, and global cooperation. Last couple of questions, Sachinji, for you. You also have been a member of the board of governors of the Reserve Bank of India. Effectively, this is amongst the few institutions in India which has exceeded global benchmarks and global standards, right? Because people actually look up to the RBI globally, because no matter what, come hell or high water, the RBI has stood to protect and ensure that every Indian's rupee is respected. And you've been on the board for well over 6 years, and you were telling me you are the chairman of the banking and financial oversight committee and some of the other committees. How do you approach a role like this, where literally the expectations and the custody of 1.4 billion Indians, you act as a trustee on behalf of all of them? When you're in any of these meetings, what goes through your mind? Give us a little bit more about the human side of Mr. Chaturvedi and Dr. Chaturvedi when he sits on the board of the Reserve Bank of India.
No, Siddharth, I think the good thing in India is the professionalism in RBI. You find that very good minds, very committed minds are there in terms of how you protect money, how you keep yourself insulated from multiple financial interests that may come in through political intervention or from the market intervention.
Sir, there are a couple of topics we want to discuss. You've spoken a lot about research, impact on public life, equitable and fair and just distribution. And earlier today, when you were at the event, you spoke of the work that Gita Ganga is doing. And you said that they're actually doing the work that you all are also doing, and it would be so good to get this collaboration done. So I want you to spend some time on collaboration between academia and civil society or NGOs at one end, and academia and industry at the other end, because it is at the collaboration and the intersection of society, industry, and academia that we believe something great will happen, right? And then speak a little bit about how you see the work of Gita Ganga closely resembling the work you're doing at Nalanda.
I would pick up first component of your question
Yeah.
at the outset, Siddharth. I feel that passion drives all the three.
Okay.
So wherever you find very passionate people,
Okay.
be that in civil society or in industry or in government, they are trying to find out counterparts.
Right.
So Gita Ganga, if you see the amount of energy that is evident is largely out of passion.
Right.
Passion for labor, passion for putting things together,
Right.
passion for serving the larger objective that Maharaji has laid out.
Right.
This is something that any government institution, if they lack passion, won't happen.
Right.
You were very modest in saying that I said we should be doing, but actually we should have done that. Government institutions should have done that.
Right.
It hasn't happened.
Right.
The amount of themes and sub-themes on which they have done the description of 15,000 words to be defined
Right.
is not a joke.
Right.
The amount of effort that Gita Ganga has placed together with civil society effort is hugely praiseworthy.
Right.
It's a national asset.
Right.
It's a civilizational asset.
Right.
It's asset for the humanity as a whole because we are understanding what the past was all about.
Right.
So from that point of view, similar work with industry. Industry, government connect. Industry, academia connect. This again has happened in the past, not that it has not happened. If you see several big hospitals in India were built by Maharajs of that time.
Right.
If Ahilyabai Holkar funded ghats and temples and learning centers across India,
Right.
Maharaj of Mysore gave land for Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore.
Right.
He was the one who built the first mental hospital and clinic that now became a major hospital in Bangalore.
Right.
So these efforts have been there. The idea of Tata's working with Indian Institute of Science, creating an ecosystem of learning and mutually feeding each other
Right.
is not new. That model was there.
True.
Then why it is not getting extrapolated? As a industrialist, as a person with close connect within the family and within yourself on industry, you know that our industry requires at large a huge intellectual push to go up in the trajectory.
Right.
So we are developing business where tracks are laid out and not so much governed and controlled by intellectual property.
Right.
We are in business which is off intellectual property.
True.
Very few are intellectual property. Even Infosys and other companies have also lost that track.
Right.
How do we bring our companies back on international track when it comes to intellectual property?
Right.
How many of our companies can really claim that territory where nobody can enter because they have the intellectual property?
Right.
So far, we have entered in fields where we have intruded in the intellectual property space,
Right.
or we have taken those technologies which are off patent.
Right.
So we wait for patent to go away.
Right.
But Siddharth, we should not forget that the companies in the West have also tried to block access to intellectual property.
Right.
Evergreening of patent is
Yeah.
not something we have not heard of.
Yeah.
Combining intellectual property instruments like copyright with utility patent
Yeah.
is something which in last 10 to 12 years has evolved as a major instrument
True.
to control pharmacy
True.
and biopharma research and biopharma
True.
going up the scale.
Right.
We got BPOs, we got CROs,
Right.
but we hardly have our own startups in biopharma which are really
At the cutting edge of
technology development. So this is where academia and industry partnership is important.
right.
Our universities would have to be freed from the clutches of bureaucracy so that universities can create their own companies.
Right.
And those companies should partner with industry.
True.
The industry people cannot be going around in the corridors of the university to have MOUs and signing, and
Yeah.
etc. etc. IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, they have prospered with Industry Connect because they have opened up themselves to industry. They have
right.
created special purpose vehicles which are paving the way to connect with industry.
Right.
And you find all the universities now are having far greater connect with the private sector than ever before.
True.
Thanks to Prime Minister's personal push for startup culture, procurement from startups, and also easing of the dimensions of engagement which are necessary. So I think industry, academia partnership, industry, civil society partnership, academia's civil society partnership, are partnerships for Viksit Bharat. And we
Right.
need to build on that.
Right. I'm going to end with one last question. You spoke of Viksit Bharat. What role do you see organizations like Jyot, Gitar Ganga play in the role of Viksit Bharat? And then, more specifically, today, when you look at Nalanda, the RBI, RIS, of which you were a part for very long, how do you look at all of these institutions shaping up and institutionally India working towards the goal of Viksit Bharat?
This largely, Siddharth, lies in what Maharajji tells us, and I heard it earlier when I met him. Today also we heard it. And that's the decolonization of minds.
Right.
That's the decolonization of minds with Indian sanskara. So how we focus in our schools on this idea of sanskara. What I think a joint family system gives you, what the societal sense of responsibility that you get
Right.
from these deliberations,
Right.
these ideas that are coming up. They give you huge bandwidth to progress.
Right.
And that's what Viksit Bharat would be. Viksit Bharat would be by change of mindset. It would be by change of institutional frameworks at the
Right.
family level,
Right.
at the city level,
Right.
at the state level, and then at the national level.
Right.
So how we create a world which is full with compassion, which is full with mutual respect,
Right.
with mutual sensitivity, and the respect for knowledge that is needed.
Right.
India was society like that.
Right.
India was society which was duty-centric
Right.
and not right-oriented.
True.
So when you have, as Maharajji said, right of expression, right of freedom to speech, you intrude into many other rights.
Right.
And you undermine several other rights which are accruable to others.
Right.
So how do we make society more duty-oriented, which is the Indian family system, in which
Right.
you learn about your
Right.
duty more than your rights.
Rights.
You can't assert your rights before your father in a
Right.
family
Right.
when you have huge respect and,
Right.
reverence. So that's where the sense of duty should come in. People may find this irrelevant in times, but I think it has proven, time-tested,
Right.
and that would be the foundation for Viksit Bharat.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sachin ji. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure. To all our viewers and listeners, what a fabulous session with Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University, member of the Board of Governors of the Reserve Bank of India, and formerly an eminent research economist at RIS, and someone who's played such a pivotal role in shaping the economic thought, economic policy, foreign policy, geopolitics, and all of this now coming together in his fabulous role. Dr. Chaturvedi, we wish you all the very best in getting India and Nalanda back at that high table, and for all of us to realize the dream of Viksit Bharat. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you,
for your time.
Siddharth. Excellent.
Thank you.